the network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
Greetings and welcome to Connected Everything IoT. My name is David Danto, your host, and on this episode of Everything IoT, we're going to be blue. I'm wearing my non-traditional dark blue shirt. I don't know if you can tell the difference instead of my typical black one, and I rarely acknowledge them, and I need to acknowledge them that we're using Blue Jeans facilities to record connected shows, and I appreciate that. And we have with us a show to talk about Bluetooth. What Bluetooth is and where it's come from, where it's going, and all the nuances around it. And joining me are Mark Powell, the Executive Director of the Bluetooth SIG. Mark, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are, and then I'll introduce Cary as well.
Hi, everyone. As David said, I'm Mark Powell, the Executive Director of the Bluetooth SIG. I have the pleasure of running the incorporated entity that sits behind the Bluetooth organization. I think it's one of the most exciting jobs in the world. Hopefully we'll get into why that might be, but we have an organization today of about 30,000 members, heading towards 31,000 members, and we're sitting in front of an industry this year about 3 billion Bluetooth products. So sizable industry and lots of exciting stuff in the pipe that hopefully we'll get to talk about, but pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining me. And also joining us is Cary Bran. Cary is the Vice President of Corporate Strategy and Innovation at Plantronics. Cary, why don't you give everybody a little background on you?
Oh, sure. Well, thanks for having me. So I get the privilege of leading research and development and corporate strategy at Plantronics. So part of my job is being paid to tinker and experiment with the latest in wireless technologies. And part of it is actually helping the company make decisions as to where to invest next as far as technology, as far as business.
Terrific. Cary and Mark, thank you very much. So let's start at the beginning. When did Bluetooth start? Where was it invented? What is it, in the early 2000s, in the early 1800s? Give me a 3-second background for people who don't know, either one of you.
Maybe I could take that. I mean, this technology dates back to the late 90s when companies like Ericsson were getting together ideas about cable replacement, how to replace the cable to your headphones, how to replace the cable to your PC, between your cell phone and your PC, and how to do this in a wireless way. And they came up with some ideas and got together with a few other companies and started to put a spec together. And then in the early 2000s, I think they call that the noughties, in the early 2000s, they formed a special interest group and incorporated a company that is today the Bluetooth SIG. So, gosh, I think that's almost 20 years ago that the technology started, and has come a long way since then.
So if I wanted to use Bluetooth technology in an invention I was working on here in my lab, would I need to license it, or is it an open standard, or how does that work?
So the idea is that you become a member of the Bluetooth SIG, and then you get access to all of the specifications in development. You get a right to use some of a license to some of the intellectual property, to use the trademark. And that enables you to ship products. We provide tools to support people who are members. We help members, what we do call qualification, which is to test their products to make sure that they'll work with other Bluetooth products, which I think is quite valuable, and obviously something that Bluetooth is very well known for. It's all part of being part of the Bluetooth club.
Terrific. So, Cary, being obviously a large user of Bluetooth technologies at Plantronics, what is your interaction like with the SIG on a regular basis?
Well, so Plantronics is deeply involved in the Bluetooth SIG. I happen to be an associate board member on the SIG, so I actually get to participate in a lot of the conversations, the high-level conversations of how the standards are evolving. from a more nuts and bolts perspective, we actually have Jaap Hartson as a Plantronics employee, and Jaap is kind of known as the father of Bluetooth. He was one of the inventors of the technology. He's actually a Plantronics employee based out of our Emmen office in the Netherlands. So we have a lot of in-house Bluetooth expertise. We're contributing to the SIG in the standards development, and we've got the founder, also the father of Bluetooth, as an employee. So we're very much involved. Yeah.
So obviously, I understand that if I'm wearing a wireless headset for my mobile device, I'm using a Plantronics headset, of course, but I'm using Bluetooth technologies. But give us a sense, Mark, of what other things that people might not be aware of are being done with Bluetooth today.
Well, we've just really come through a big phase of sports and fitness devices, where what people might call wearables, where you have perhaps a step sensor or a pulse oximeter or health type products. There's a whole array of products out there that have helped people live their lives in a better way. Perhaps you might call it the Internet of My Things, where people have been connecting different things to their phone, perhaps even a smartwatch or something like that. It's proven really quite exciting for a lot of people to know more about what they're doing on a daily basis. Perhaps even, I might be a diabetic and I want to be monitoring my insulin levels, in a more sophisticated way. Maybe I want to share the results with my healthcare provider. So all of these kinds of things are possible with Bluetooth, with a small device that's perhaps doing the monitoring, and it's linking with your smartphone or a tablet, something like that. That's continuing, and it's explosive for us. And obviously that's on top of all of the traditional applications that you already mentioned. Wireless audio is, of course, a huge one for us. But what's coming is tremendously exciting. And what's coming is the Internet of Things and smart homes, smart industrial applications. So, for example, Bluetooth being inside a light switch that might connect to a light bulb. And these two things can talk together without actually requiring a smartphone or a tablet in between, and being able to connect these things together and group them and have them come on at different times of the day without needing your intervention. Perhaps even connecting a door lock, which is Bluetooth, together with the lights, so that when you come home, the lights come on automatically when they hear from the door lock, hey, I just unlocked and let Mark in the house. So there's an array of applications that are coming, things that you actually can buy today. You can buy Bluetooth locks, you can buy light switches and light bulbs, and you can start building this stuff. But more and more will come. We're working on some additional technology pieces that will just make this even more exciting, even more applicable to everyday life.
Let me ask you a couple of questions around the concept of saturation. And I mean that from a technical sense, and I mean that also from a human factor sense. Is there, first of all, from a technical sense, is there too much Bluetooth that will it get to the point where it won't work? If I have 20 devices or 50 devices or 100 devices in a small space, I mean, I don't know what's impractical, but is there a limitation as to how much of this technology I can use in a given space?
I would say probably not, because Bluetooth is designed with something from the very early days. It was designed with something that's called adaptive frequency hopping. And what the radios in Bluetooth do is they hop around the frequency band in a random pattern. And what that allows is for devices to be all using the same spectrum, and for the communications that they're having not to collide. And if you like, they're politely sharing the spectrum. Perhaps there might be a practical limit, but honestly, for most people, they're never going to see a situation like that, because the devices will all communicate effectively with one another.
Right. And then the other point of saturation that I would ask your opinion on is the idea of I'm a techie. We're geeks on this video call. I get overwhelmed by the number of devices that I'm trying to manage at any given moment. So I have my mobile phone and I'm carrying a tablet with me, and I go into my car, and the headset that I'm wearing is no longer paired with my phone because my car wants to pair with it, and then the tablet gets involved, and the doorbell might be ringing. And is there anything coming down the pike that will make managing these various things easier in an Internet of Things world? Because otherwise I think people are going to get overwhelmed and turned off.
I mean, first of all, I'm a geek as well, so I agree with you. But yes, there are things that are coming. We've got some things that will make pairing easier, make it possible for you to manage pairing. I think in general, though, what happens is, if you look back in history at how complicated technologies have become mass market, is the participants in the industry figure out how to do some of the complicated things and how to make it applicable to, for example, my mum or my sister, who are not geeks like me. And I think that's what will happen, is that clever things will be done. Actually, one great example is what Apple has just done with their AirPods. They've come up with some clever ways to integrate some technology and to make it all work so that you have a very smooth experience when you buy the product and you want to use it for the first time. And I know Plantronics are working on some clever stuff like that too. I have actually some Plantronics headphones, and it amazes me when I put them on, it starts the music. I take them off, the music stops. So I think it's going to come from two places. One, standards organizations like us provide, the underlying platforms, and then companies like Cary's will innovate and create clever ideas that will help the industry adopt this stuff.
So, Cary, let's pick up that segue. That's a nice smooth move there from Mark. I appreciate it. We obviously are, the 800-pound gorilla in audio and headsets right now is Apple with their iPhone 7 doing away with the headphone jack. And rather than talk about good or bad, how do you see that impacting the industry of wireless headsets and audio files? Because I've seen a lot of debate around that, and proprietary versus standards-based, and what's your thoughts around that? Not necessarily Plantronics, but yours.
Well, my thoughts on that are, why having the more reliance on wireless devices, I think it's fantastic. There are so many instances in my life, I'm talking to you on a wireless device right now, where I prefer to cut the wires. So I think, it was a move on Apple's behalf to kind of drive us that way. But
all right, what is that device? Is that a Backbeat?
This right here is
that the Focus? That's the Focus, right? Okay.
So it's very much, and it's got a consumerized kind of feel to it, right? I mean, this idea of, but anyways, back to the the wireless topic. I think it's good for the industry in the sense that it's going to cause us to innovate a lot. One of the big things when you cut the wires is you really have to concern yourself with power and how power is consumed, how intelligent your advertisements are for services, and what services and how much data is being transmitted out of the device. This device has sensors, as Mark alluded to, that can tell you if it's being worn or not. We can send all that information over Bluetooth today, but we have to do it in a miserly way because we have to conserve power, because I'm on this device all day long, right? So I think it will cause the industry to evolve in how it builds devices, how it builds its services on top of those devices, and then the audio being transmitted over. Perhaps for a phone call, it has to be of high quality, but when I'm listening to music, it might have to be of higher quality. So being able to understand when the appropriate codecs or when the appropriate bit rate should be applied, depending on the use case. So I think the devices are going to have to become more intelligent.
Oh God, I want to say this in a politically correct manner. I'm always very careful about that because I don't want to throw any company or any organization under a bus. But the difference between what a really good pair of Bluetooth wireless earbuds cost and what Apple wanted to charge for ones that have their logo on it seemed to be a pretty wide delta. Do we think that's going to close toward the consumer side, or do we think that's going to grow toward Apple's idea of proprietary technology?
Well, maybe I can pitch in an answer for that one first of all. One of the great things about Bluetooth is that it's like a pantry of ingredients. And even within some of the ingredients, there's different levels about what you can use. And this is true very much of Bluetooth audio, that Bluetooth audio supports the really high quality codecs, very high performance things, and it also supports things that can be cheap. And when you're making a market, wanting to enable a mass market, you have to have a range of things so that you can have, the volume products at the low price point, and so that you can have high quality products which probably would command a premium. I mean, for example, I went to Target the other day. I saw Bluetooth earbuds on an end cap by the cash registers, $10 for Bluetooth earbuds. But I don't think that they'll sound as good as my high-end Plantronics cans. And the great thing is, it's all Bluetooth, and Bluetooth allows for the volume applications where consumers can get access to a technology, and it allows for the high end for the people who want the high performance.
So you think market forces are going to essentially bring that to get people to pick the quality that they're looking for at the price point they're comfortable with?
Yeah, and we're delighted because Bluetooth can do all of this, and this is part of when we create new specifications, is creating the ability to address a market from top to bottom. That's important. You can't just create a market with very high-end products. You have to be able to address all tiers of the market.
So what version of Bluetooth are we up to right now? What would be current standards for top of the line available, not being tested?
Well, the latest specification is Bluetooth 4.2. We announced earlier this year that at the end of the year, we'll be publishing the next version, which will be called Bluetooth 5. And Bluetooth 5 actually is adding some things for the Internet of Things. So we're extending the range, we're increasing the speed, we're doing some things with beacons. But that's coming at the end of the year. But the latest version people are building to right now is 4.2.
Okay. So as we're talking about not just high-end audio, but we're talking about health monitoring, and we're talking about beacons, as you call, location identification and activation of things, and possibly door locks. And it's no longer just something that we like for our convenience. It's now things that we're going to start relying on for our health, for our safety. One of the questions I've been asking all the people as it relates to the Internet of Things and sensors is there security of the data, and is there best practices around security, especially in light of, when we're recording this, we just passed that very large distributed denial of service attack that happened on the internet. Everybody's now wondering their embedded devices that they can't control. There's no passwords for them. There's no best practices. Is there that type of situation, or are there protections built into Bluetooth, or will they come? I'm just curious, because what would be the right thing for people to do as they look at security of the technology?
So Bluetooth 4.2 is government grade. So there's FIPS and NIST compliance in the top end security that we provide. And in a similar way to what I was describing earlier about the audio application, people choose the appropriate level of security that they want from our specification. And implementing the higher grade of security might cost more money. It might need more memory, it might need a more powerful processor in order to implement it. And so perhaps the simpler products, the $10 wristband that might be monitoring my steps, maybe that's not using the highest grade of security, but maybe some of my home products really should. So, Bluetooth is already today, as I say, government grade. It's up to the market to choose the right pieces to build the appropriate products. And so we'll keep marching forwards and keeping pace as you have to with security. As soon as you create a stronger lock, somebody figures out a smarter pick. We just got to keep going, and that our members will keep advancing the specs that we have. But right now, members can build very secure products. I think the one thing I've understood about this denial of service attack was that it was from these zombie devices that have default username and passwords that have been grabbed by this software on the internet. And yeah, I mean, typically Bluetooth devices don't have username and password. We do have a secure pairing process that avoids things like that.
Yeah, but 90% of the Bluetooth headsets I've ever paired have a security code of 1234 on them.
Okay, but that's again, that's a choice of the manufacturer, because you can have a unique code for every device. So we create the specification that allows this range of things to occur. So if people are more concerned about security, then they should be buying the devices that have these more secure implementations of Bluetooth.
And that makes perfect sense. And Cary, I definitely want to follow up with you, because I think you guys have just done some recent implementations around two-factor authentication. But just one quick follow-up on that. As consumers buy the technology, which is one of the big problems in those zombies we were just talking about, there was really no way for them to know. Is there any way, as a consumer that's buying Bluetooth technology, to easily identify what level of security has been embedded in a product?
You could certainly look at the specifications that are supported in the specification list, and I know you're going to tell me that my mum and my sister probably won't do that. But I would also say, there are implementations coming that will be more immune to that. So, for example, the mesh technology that we're working on is capable of working without an internet connection. So when you don't have an internet connection, you don't have this problem. So, I think there are other ways to kind of lock things down. And, that's what our members are keen to support. And the specs that will be coming out will have those modes available.
Yeah, that's what we're seeing across all of the Internet of Things, is that we've almost put products out there before we thought about the implications of them, and we're just starting to learn about what we might be asking for. So, you're no better or worse. Obviously, it sounds like you're a lot better than most of the other organizations dealing with technologies, but from a consumer focus standpoint, we're going to have to figure out how to make people smart fast, or make devices smarter faster. So, Cary, I'm sorry I cut you off there before. I know that you guys have demonstrated for me some of your devices not only using Bluetooth technology, but some of your own voice technology to create that level of authentication. Is that still something that you're looking at, that Plantronics is looking at?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I just wanted to kind of revisit what Mark said about Bluetooth 4.2. I think it provides a really hardened platform if you implement, up to the FIPS 140 compliance. So you can innovate inside of that. So once you have that level of, how the devices connect to each other, how the pairing happens, and all of that, you can actually build upon that platform. And so we've done that with some of the prototype work that my team has done, where we've taken, in addition to making a headset form factor, we've added things like secure elements to the device. And we use Bluetooth 4.2 to actually establish a secure connection, and we can do multi-factor authentication with the device. And that's just building upon what's already in the spec. The idea here is that once you have, once devices are, connected with each other and bonded, you can do a lot of things. You can do credit card payments. You can do purchasing approvals. So I think the plumbing is in there. The other thing that you can do is you can make these bonded experiences, or when two devices connect, you can make that transient, so the bonds can break down. And most consumers aren't going to grok that, but it's going to be something that enterprises will definitely like. Being able to come in, have devices connect one time, do an exchange of secure information, disconnect and forget about each other, I think will lead to a more secure environment.
Oh, and by all means, look at the automotive industry. I pick up a rental car, and the first thing that I want to do is pair the Bluetooth, and then the first thing that I see is the phone book of all the other 8 users that maxed out the book before. So, that would be a great switch to be able to throw in the car technology to say this is a rental car. So when it's turned back in, wipe the Bluetooth, wipe the memory. If the technology is there, we just have to kind of get the manufacturers to implement it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the more types of experiences where we can connect, have some sort of experience, either audio, transfer of data, whatever it is, and then being able to break those down quickly and then move on to the next one as you go throughout your day is that's kind of the utopia for the Internet of Things. It's these rendezvous that happen and then break down, but when they do happen, they're secure. and your identity is protected, your credit card information is protected, whatever it is at that point in time, it's secure and it's hardened.
Okay, that's terrific. What do we expect to see possibly? We've got CES coming up as we air this, probably in about a month and a half. What can we expect to see coming out of some of the new devices, some of the new implementations of Bluetooth that you guys are aware of?
Well, I can speculate a little bit based on what specifications we've been enabling. But I know there'll be a lot of smart home products. There's a lot of guys who are doing work on the switches, the light switches, light bulbs, things around the home, connecting devices in the home to things, either hub devices in the home that like Alexa or Apple TV, those kinds of things. There'll be a lot more. As usual, a lot more exciting and interesting things with the wireless speakers and wireless audio space, and obviously a lot more in the sports and fitness, healthcare, personal wearable type technologies.
As you improve the range and quality and dynamic capabilities of the Bluetooth spec, do you think it could ever jump into the space that's being squeezed by the FCC around theatrical audio and wireless microphones? That's never anything that I really took seriously, but as you start to see those frequency allocations start to move toward other high-end things, and the professional audio people starting to pull their hair out around what they can do with wireless microphones, is that something conceivably in the future that Bluetooth could step in on and help with?
Well, I don't know whether Cary wants to weigh in on this in terms of what his company's doing, but Bluetooth is working on the next generation of audio. This is something that'll be coming out in a year and a half or so, and it will be better codecs, different kinds of use cases. Maybe not the theatrical applications, but that's not far away from being able to transmit a Bluetooth signal to multiple speakers, two earpieces at the same time, those kinds of applications. So it's heading in that direction. I mean, we're already actually being used by the keyboard and guitar industry for connecting instruments to sound generators using MIDI. If you know that technology, so that's already technology that's being applied. But like I say, maybe Cary can elaborate on what he's seeing.
Yeah, no, I would very much agree with that. I mean, it seems to me that as the standards evolve and as we get more use cases that and implementations that can take advantage of the new standards, and I won't go into what those exactly are. You'll start to see more opportunities where Bluetooth, and if you look at it today, aside from the mesh technology that Mark has described, it's really point to point. It's kind of like I connect to one device, or it's a one-to-one or a one-to-many. Like this device that I'm wearing can connect to two things simultaneously, but it kind of breaks down after two or three. I think in the future, as we start to see audio experiences where you can kind of walk up to something and you and your friends can share in the same kind of audio experience, even though you're wearing all different types of devices, because Bluetooth is kind of in the fabric there. You'll be able to have these one device to many type of experiences, or almost I'd say a broadcast of audio. Of course, at your discretion. It would be again, coming up, doing the connection, and then being able to experience it. So being able to share experiences will become a lot easier with Bluetooth devices in the not too distant future.
That's great. Cary, anything you can give us in your crystal ball regarding CES this year that you're capable or allowed to talk about that we should at a high level be looking for?
Well, I think there's going to be for us it's going to be about audio sensor technologies, embedding these into our devices. We are using a lot of Bluetooth in our product portfolio. I think the exciting parts for us as we move forward is being able to connect all the contextual data that's coming out of our devices to the cloud, and then being able to process that and feed into other clouds. So we're looking at it as I want mesh to come along. I want IP connectivity to come along, because I would like to be able to take the Bluetooth fabric that's in the enterprise take our devices and feed into the cloud through that fabric. So I think, when I think of CES, I think of the starts of that. We're starting to see this kind of connectivity to broader ecosystems, and there'll be some interesting things from Plantronics there for sure.
Terrific. So Mark, if anybody wants more information about Bluetooth or wants to get in touch with you, how can they go about reaching you or reaching your organization?
So we have a website, bluetooth.com. Surprising. And there on the website, you'll be able to hear all about the latest versions of Bluetooth. We talked about 4.2. We talked about 5 coming. So you'll be right on the home page. We're talking about what's coming in Bluetooth 5. At the bottom of the page, there'll be a link to provide some feedback. Contact us. And you get right to our member relations team, and people can talk to us directly.
Terrific. Thank you very much, Mark. Cary, what about you? How would someone get in touch with you or follow you on Twitter or reach out to Plantronics?
Sure. So, the plantronics.com is our website. There are links there for reaching out if anyone ever has a problem with one of our products. Our customer service is right there to help you. So make sure that visit plantronics.com. The other thing is for me, I'm available. My first last name at plantronics.com. You can get a hold of me that way, or on Twitter it's at Cary Bran. I do respond to messages, so please feel free to contact me.
Terrific. Mark, Cary, thank you very much for joining me. I appreciate this enlightening romp through the blue areas of Tooth. And this is going to be our last episode of Connected until CES. So thank you very much for joining us, and we look forward to you from the halls of Mandalay Bay and the Las Vegas Convention Center. Take care, everybody.